Hello and welcome. In today's video I'm going to show you my favorite brushes. I have quite a large collection of brushes, but there is some that I prefer in just for the sake that they perform, at least for me, the best way or most easiest way or whatever reason. So if you're interested to see what kind of brushes I love to use, just keep on watching. Let's start from the basics. The foundation. My most used foundation brush is this one from Smashbox. This is their blurring foundation brush, and this is quite an average foundation brush. It's very similar to the one from ELF, for example, but for some reason I love this one. As if you have seen any of my get ready with me videos or something, you might have seen me using this, and I usually use this kind of pressing. I hardly ever do this motion. I usually press my foundation, and this is quite soft and it gets large, so it really works in that method. So this is why I use this. In this brush there is this kind of what's the word? There is kind of information how to use this as well. If you want to have full coverage, you can place your fingers to the place where it says full, and then there is at the end of the brush there is sheer. So depending on of where you keep your hand, are you going to hold it right close here to the brush side or here to the end side? In this kind of way you're getting a softer, a lighter touch to your skin, so you're getting more sheer coverage. When I'm using cream foundation, which I actually do most of the days on everyday makeups, my absolute favorite is this one from EcoTools. This is part of their 3 brush set. It's the 360 degrees set. There is 3 different circle sized, very dense brushes, and these are especially designed for cream products. And this is so fast with stick foundations, so I basically never use anything else than this one. For my under eye concealer I have 2 different depending of which concealer I'm using. Most of the times I'm using kind of a basic concealer brush. This is from Zoeva, it's number 145. Again, I don't use this motion. I usually tap my concealer until it's set and smooth. So this is the way I want to use. I use this with if I have a more liquidy concealer. But when I have more thick or more emollient, for example the Tarte creaseless concealer, I use this kind of paddle brush. This brush is from a holiday kit from the Kicks brand, but you can find these kind of paddle brushes nowadays from their single brushes line and many different brushes line as well. I found out that this kind of very dense brush works really well with the more thicker, more emollient concealer, so I use this on those situations. Then I have 2 brushes that I use setting my foundation. As you might know, I have dry skin and I try to avoid using powders, so mostly I just powder my under eye area and next to my nose, and usually I set my eyelids as well. To do my eyelids and my nose, maybe a little bit of cheek, I usually use this setting brush from Real Techniques. This is just the right size, this is the right density to set my eyes and get to my nose and everywhere. I usually set my eyebrows as well. And then on my under eye, as I want to use the minimal amount of powder, I use this, what's this called, Luxe Powder Fusion from Zoeva. It's number 100 and something, 34 maybe. I'll check it out. I use this because this is very flimsy. So I take the tiniest amount, I wipe most of it off, and then I just, again, I tap this starting from outer corner. So in this way, because this is not a dense brush and this is quite a long brush, I get the minimal amount of powder. So this is quite enough for my under eye area, and I hardly ever use anything else except this, only on the days when I'm, for example, filming and I want really full coverage something, or I have some kind of event, I know I'm going to sweat and I want to not bake my under eye but to use more powder, then I usually use actually this one. So these are my two of my favorites. For powder, like overall powder, I usually use two different brushes. But I'm not so picky about these brushes, I just quickly mention. This is quite basic powder brush. This is from Tarte set from a few years back. This is more interesting. If I do buffing technique at the end of my makeup, like buffing some kind of finishing powder, then I use this one. This is from Smashbox. This is the sheer powder, and this is again very flimsy brush, and the shape is quite unique, so you can really use it in different angles, and you can just buff or you can just wipe a little bit of powder. So this is great for finishing touches. Highlighter, I use only one highlighter brush, and this is from Wet n Wild. This is the number P75. I'm not so picky on highlighter brushes. Lately I have been testing this this one from Real Techniques, which is their new kind of strange looking brush line. This is great for if I want to highlight my brow bones or nose, for example, but still this one from Wet n Wild is the one I use for highlighting. Blush is something I love, and there is an absolute favorite which I use daily, and this is again from Smashbox. It's just the right, it has the same shape as the powder brush. There is a different kind of angles in this brush, and there is two spots, there is carvings in here, so you can place your fingers there and you get the right position either in here closer to the brush or further away. So again, you can get the more sheer coverage or more full coverage. But because this is so flimsy, I get the control of how much blush I'm going to use, because as I'm fair, most of the blushes tend to go quite dark on me. So I want the most sheerest coverage I can get, and then I like to build it up rather than I need to wipe it away, because it's just going to cause some problems. But very similar blush which I use if I know that the blush is very pigmented, I use this from EcoTools. Yes, it's sheer blush brush. It's a duo fiber brush, and this top part is quite flimsy, and then there is more dense part and lower here. And this is great for very pigmented, because this is not so dense, so this picks up quite small amount of brushes, and it's very easy to just blend it away. So this is something I use with the very pigmented blushes. Then I have 5 eyeshadow brushes. Yes, I use many others as well, but these are my 5 most used eyeshadow brushes. Again, Zoeva comes in. This is their Luxe Crease brush, and this is something I use every time when I do my makeup. When I place my, I usually start with almost skin toned eyeshadow just to create a base, and then I use the next one, kind of transition shade, and then I use a third one, and all those three I use the same brush. So I just layer those up just to make the transition more even, and this is just exactly the right shape and size for my eyes. When I want to go to my crease, which is deep inside somewhere in there, I finally found a perfect crease brush for me. I've been looking for years and now I found it. This is from the brand Kicks. Unfortunately, this is available in Nordic countries. I don't think they shipped to other countries. But this is their new launch, Smoky eyeshadow. I think this came to stores just a few weeks ago. I have only one, but I will for sure go and get more, because this is the most perfect crease brush for hooded eyed. It's quite long to begin with, so it's kind of easier to control where you apply your eyeshadow. It's surprisingly pointed, so again you can have control where you put your eyeshadow, but there is enough brushes so you can blend it very easily away. I've been using this now with very different eyeshadows, press pigmented eyeshadows and regular ones, and it works really well with all of those. For example, I used this today on my crease and I had absolutely no problems. I used the Juvia's Place, the Deuce palette, which is this one, and I've had problems with their eyeshadows because they are quite press pigmented kind of, so I've had issues with blending, but I didn't have any as I used this today. The newest addition to my collection is this MAC 221S. I use this on my under eye area and I love this brush. I saw Mel Thompson use it every time she does her makeup, and this is just a perfect brush. These are actually quite similar in the way that they are both quite long. This is more flimsy, but this is flimsy as well, but this is more flimsy and this is slightly more rounded on the top. And it's just perfect, even though I am getting older. I'm almost 42 and I do have fine lines, and I do love to have my concealer not really dry, so the blending eyeshadow on top of everything, that can be a bit tricky, but with this one I haven't had any problems. And when I want a bit more precise color on my under eye, this one from Body Shop, there is a mark N93E. I don't know if it's the number of this brush or not, but this is quite average smudger brush, but for some reason it works really well on me. So when I want to deepen the lash line, for example, or the outer corner, I use this one. Then the last one, unfortunately I have no idea whose brush this is, because this is so old that there's nothing written on the brush anymore. But I want to show you just the type of the brush. I use this when I'm using metallic shades or glittery shades. This is natural bristles and it's very dense. You can see in the close-up that it doesn't move that much, and as I usually have long nails and I have hooded eyes, applying eyeshadow with my fingers is just not possible. So I need to use some kind of brush, and this is the brush that does the work for me. For example, I have used it today on my inner corner to both highlight the inner corner and this bit glowy shadow here in my eyes. So this is the type of brush I love to use on more metallic shades. So, short and pretty and whatever. These were my favorite brushes. Yes, I have 7 cups of brushes, so these definitely weren't the only ones, but these are the ones I use mostly. Please leave your favorites in the comments, and if you have any recommendations which kind of brushes I should test out, because Makeup is something that you always need to try something new, and brushes, even though you might have a lot of brushes, you still want to try new ones. Please, if you are not yet subscribed, feel free to do so. And I wish you have a great day and see you next time. Bye bye.